So let's start with the C major chord. That's where most people start. It's really easy to see. It's really easy to understand. I think about my hand making like a W shape here. You see that? But really, you would never play a chord like that. You'd use other fingers, like your 1, your 3, and your 5 finger. Or you might, I tend to play 1, 2, 3, and then play another C up here. So that chord right there, that is made up of a C, an E, and a G. But there's an easy way to sort of find a major chord, which is to start with any note. So like if I want to find a C major chord, I start with the C. It seems to make sense, right? A C. And then you count up 4 half steps. So you count up 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you've got 2 notes. You hold both of those down, and now you count up 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3, and there you've got your chord. You've got your C major chord by starting with the root, counting up 4 half steps, and then counting up 3. Now that little trick, that little pattern, works anywhere on the keyboard. So if I hit G, for instance, and I want to figure out what a G major is, G major chord, I start with G, I count up 4 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got a G and a B now. Now let's count up 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3. There's my G major chord. It sounds happy, and that's generally the case with major chords. It sounds happy. Okay? So once you have a chord, there's another way you can find major chords if you don't like the counting method, which is that once you've got one, like a C major here, you can just move every note that you've got either up or down a half step, and you can get that major. So for instance, if I were to move down a half step, I would move my thumb from a C to a B, my 2 finger, or whatever finger you're using to play it here, from an E to an E flat, or a D sharp, and this G to an F sharp, or a G flat. So what I'm playing there is now a B major. And you can do this again and again and again. So already I'll move everything down a half step. There's a B flat major, or an A sharp major, I guess. And then you can do it again. There's an A major. And you can go again and again and play every single major this way. Just by going down half steps, you can play every single major. And the way to know what major you're playing is to just look at whatever your leftmost note is. So here's the C. I go up a half step with each finger, and now I'm playing a C sharp major. There's my D major. Right? On and on and on and on from there, okay? So that's how you can find any major chord. Now, if you want to find minor chords, there's a couple of ways. You can do a counting method, right? So a C minor looks like this. It sounds a little bit sad, a little scary. So the way to do it is you pick a root, so like for instance C, and you count up, instead of counting 4 and then 3 like we did for the major, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to count up 3 half steps to this E flat, and then we're going to count up 4 half steps to a G. So that's your C minor. Okay? You can do that same thing in any scale, in any note for any minor. So if we start with A, for instance, here's A. We can count up 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3. Now we count up 4 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's our A minor. Kind of sad and dreamy, right? Now, just like with the C major, where we were able to transpose and just move things up all at the same time, up half steps, you can also do that with a minor chord. So here's A minor. If we move everything up a half step, now we have A sharp minor or B flat minor, right? And we can do that again by moving this up to here. There's a B, a D, and an F sharp. So there's a B minor. And we can do that all the way up the keyboard. Oops, I somewhere shifted to minor. Alright, cool. So you can do it that way. There's one other way that you can find minors, which is to just play the major. So like, let's say you want to play C minor. You can just play a C major, which is a C, an E, and a G. And instead of counting or doing anything else, you can just move the middle note, which in this case is an E. You can move it down a half step. So C, E flat, and G. And there's a C minor. That also works for every chord, right? So here's A major, A, C sharp, and E. And you can move this middle note down a half step to the C. And there's your A minor. Okay? That works anywhere on the keyboard, and hopefully it'll give you some tools to find major and minor chords.
This is a reminder about how major and minor chords look when you're looking at chord boxes. So if you're looking at a chord diagram, a major chord is shown just with its name. So this is a guitar chord box for D major. If you see an M in a chord name, it means minor. So here is a chord box for D minor. If there's no M, it's major. This is D major. In a minute, you're going to be doing some questions where you're going to be identifying the notes of specific major and minor chords. So before we do that, let's just practice doing this, remembering our rules that a major chord is 4, then 3 semitones, and a minor chord is 3, then 4. Here's a practice one. We're going to do the notes of the chord of D major. So D itself is our root, and we're going to do 4, then 3 semitones up from there. So counting up from D, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, which tells us that the next note in our D major chord is an F sharp. Then we need 3 semitones up from there, 1, 2, 3, telling us that the top note in our chord is A. So the 3 notes that we need to play our D major chord are D, F sharp and A. Now let's do a practice minor chord, remembering that the rule for minor is 3, then 4 semitones. We're going to do an F sharp minor chord. So our root note is F sharp, and we're going to count 3 semitones up from there, 1, 2, 3. So the second note in our F sharp minor chord is A. Then we need to count 4 semitones up from there. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. This tells us that the top note in our F sharp minor chord is C sharp. So when we're playing an F sharp minor chord, we need to play F sharp, A and C sharp together.